Hi everyone, welcome to Javaras. Let's continue building authorization server. In the previous video, we have completed a part where user is able to see the login screen if the authorization request is valid. Otherwise, we are showing error to the user if the auth request is not valid. Or we are redirecting the user to redirect URI with the error code and error description. In this video, we will handle the login form and we will display authorization interface to the user. First of all, what I want is whenever we restart the application, we need to have some realms and clients and users. So for that, first I will just delete all the data from the MySQL database. So delete from client secrets, then delete from clients and delete from. So I'm deleting this data from client secret, clients and realms table. So I put this SQL statements in schema.sql file. So whenever the application is start up, these statements will execute and all the data will get deleted. Now after deleting the data, we need to create new realm client and client secrets. So for that, I will create one command line runner bean inside authorization server application. I have pasted the code here. So the class name is bootstrap and this implements command line runner. And we are annotating it with component annotation. So one object of this class will be created and since this implements command line runner, so after startup of the application, uh, the code inside run method will get executed. Now here we injected realm service and client service. We also injected user repository, but we don't have user repository yet. We will create that soon. And we have created two realms, the first with the name Java and the second with the name Rus. And we created one first client which is inside realm Java and its name is trip. So this is an app related to the trip. So we have this error since create client is not a public method, so we can make it public. And after that, we are generating client secret for trip client. If you see trip client is confidential, but the second client which is ESOP and which is inside Rus realm is not confidential. So we should not generate client secret for this client. So we are generating client secret for this only. So I will just make this public as well. Now we don't need the secret just yet, so we are not displaying secret. Now we need to create user repository. So let's do that. So I want to create user repository. So I will say create class user repository and inside authorization server, I will create a package called user and inside this package I will create this class. So now we don't have this error. Okay. But we need to annotate it with repository. So and after that we need to create this method here. So let's create this method. So first of all, we don't have any class called user as well. So what I can do is I can create this class inside user. Let's create a new Java class. Let's call it record. So I will say user. So we have created a user. Now user will take three things: username, password, and realm. String username, password, realm ID. So now let's import this. Now we need to create save method inside user repository. So let's do that. So for now, we will have this user repository in memory. So let's create a list of users here. Private list user users. List will be from java.util. And here let's create constructor here, public user repository, and this dot user is equal to new array list. And let's do this dot users dot add user. Now we don't have any error here, so that's good. Let's close this one. So this is user repository, this is user, so I will close everything. Now let's start the application and see the login page. I will execute this command docker compose upd. So it will spin up the MySQL database, and after that we can start the service. I will start the service, and after that we should be able to see the uh, client, two client IDs here. So this is the client ID for trip client, and this is the client ID for a shopping client. Now we can use these client IDs. So if I go to this file auth.http, so these are the URLs which we created in the previous videos. So this is the port localhost 9000. This is the domain realms. The realm name is Java. Auth client ID. Now I will replace the client ID. Redirect URI 8081 auth callback response type code and scope email and profile. Let's copy this URL and put it in the browser. Now we can see invalid client. So why is that? This is the client ID. Okay. So we copied the client ID of shopping client, which is inside another realm. But here we need to provide this client ID. Now we can see the login page here. So let's inspect element and body form. Now in the form the action is realms Java. So this is the realm ID, then auth, then this is auth request ID, and we need to handle this one. So let's do that. So let's go to authorization UI and authorization controller here. Since we are trying to log in, let's add login as well here. Now let's create a post mapping. Mm, public public string handle login, and we need to give the path. So this will be realm ID auth, then the auth request ID auth request ID, and after that login. Now here first we need the username and password. First of all, let's say path variable. We need the realm ID string realm ID, then another path variable for auth request ID string auth request ID. After that we will have query parameters. So let's do that. Request param username string username and request param password. So we have username, password, realm ID, and auth request ID. Now we want to log in the user. So first we want to validate if the user is valid user or not. So for that we will create user service. So let's do that here. Private final user service user service. So let's create user service. create class user service, and we will create it inside user package. User service, let's then annotate with service. So let's go here and first of all inject that using constructor parameter. Let's say user service, and here this dot user service, and here let's say this dot user service dot validate user. We can say login user as well, but it's good. So let's give username, password, and realm ID. So first we will validate the user. Let's create this method first. Create method validate user in user service. So here I want I want to inject user repository here. So let's say private final user repository, and add constructor parameter. So what I want is this dot user repository dot, we can say let's do this dot user repository dot find user by username, and I will give the username here. So we need to create this method, so let's do that. So instead of void it will return optional of user. So this dot users dot stream dot filter. So we have user dot username dot equals username, and dot find first. Re Result of stream dot find first is ignored, and we need to return this. So we will return this. Now let's go here user service, and I will put it in a variable called user. But if this is we get an empty optional, then we can say or else throw. Now we need to throw error, so I will say new invalid user, or let's say user not found exception, not found exception, and let's provide username. So we know that this username is not found. So let's create this class inside user package. Okay, and we will extend exception here. So since we have username, we can say user not found and then username, invalid username or password. So let's go here, and now we know that the user is present. So we need to, okay, we need to add exception to method signature. We want the controller to handle this exception. Now we have user. Now I will say if user dot password dot equals password. So if the password is doesn't match or realm ID doesn't match, then also we will throw the same error. So user not found exception with the username. Otherwise we will not do anything. Now here we need to handle this exception. So we will surround it with try catch. If we get any error, so here we will not do anything. We will just return them the login page, or if we want we can redirect them to the login page, but we will just return the login page with some error. So let's do that. So in order to return the login, this login page, we need these things: realm and auth action URI. So I will just copy this whole thing. I will copy it and I will paste it here. So realm equal to this authorization service dot verify auth request. Okay, we have this auth request as well now. So let's do this. First of all, let's verify So auth request equal to this dot authorization server dot get auth request, and we will send the auth request ID. So let's go here, create method get auth request here. Now we have auth request repository. So I will just do this, return this dot auth request repository dot find auth request by ID, and I will give the auth request ID. Let's create this method. So we'll create this method inside auth request repository. We have auth request ID, so let's just call it ID. And here as well we have a map. So what we want to do is, let's say if this dot auth request dot contains key ID, then we can, so this would be optional of auth request. Then we can say return optional dot this dot auth request dot get ID. Otherwise we will return an empty optional. Now let's go to authorization service. If it if we don't uh, find this auth request in the map, then we will throw this error, new invalid auth request exception, and that will be invalid auth request. And whenever we have that, we will show that to the user. So we have handled the invalid auth request ID. So we have auth request now. Then we validated the user. So if the user is not logged in, we will get the realm. Then auth request ID, we already have that, so we don't need to create that again. This is auth action URI, realm ID, auth request ID, login, and model. So let's get hold of model as well here. So in the model we added this attribute realms auth action URI. Now we need to add another attribute which is error, and which will be e.get message, and we will return the user login page. Now let's go to user login. Here we are not showing any error. Let's show the error here. So here what I can do is I can create a p tag here, th if. So this p tag will be there only if there is error present in the model, and th, the text will be error, and uh, let's add some style so user will know that it is an error. So we can say style color dark red. Okay, well, that's it. And we go here, we are returning user login page, but let's say the user is valid, then we need to return the authorization interface to the user. So let's return that, return authorization interface. So I already created authorization interface. So let's just create that file here, a new file, authorization interface.html. Now I already created this one, so I will just copy and paste the code here. This is the authorization interface. So the title is authorized application. Now in the header we are saying my authorization application. Here we can and display the name of the realm as well, but we are not doing that. And we are we are telling the user what is the username they are logged in as. So signed in as, here we will have the user.username. After that we will show the client's name, then the description of the client, then homepage URL of the client. After that we will show all the list of scopes. For now we are just hard coding the information which we need to display to the user. But in the later videos, when we will discuss about scopes, then we will get these scopes dynamically from the realms information, and then we will display those scopes here. Then we will display two buttons, deny or allow. So I will save it and I will go here, authorization controller. But here if you notice, we need few informations. First is the logged in user, and then we need this client. So let's go here. Now we have this user here, so we can put this information in a variable. So let's do that. User equal to this one. Let's go here and return user here. So we have the user, but we need to use this user outside of this try block, or what we can do is we can put it inside try. I will cut it from here, I will paste it here. Now here instead of user, we need client as well. So let's do that. So client will be this dot client service. Okay, so we don't have client service here. Client service, then we can inject the client service using constructor parameter. So client service here and this dot client service. Now client service dot create client, generate client, secret, delete client. So let's go to client service first. So create client, get all, get by ID. This is not public. Let's make it public. Let's go here now. So you can say dot get by ID, and we need to provide the realm ID and client ID. So realm ID, and what is the client ID? So auth request dot client ID. So this is the client ID. So we have user and client. Let's pass that to the model. Model dot add attribute client, model dot add attribute user, and we will present the authorization interface to the user. So let's save everything, restart the application. Now here we created this strip client. So this is the different client ID. I will copy this client ID and I will paste this client ID here. Let's copy this URL and paste it here. Now it's asking us to log in. The username will be, let's say, user and this pass. So this user does not exist in our authorization service. So you say invalid username or password. Now let's enter the username and password of one user which is not inside this Java realm. So which is user2 pass2. So this user exists in authorization server, but this is not for Java realm, it is for Rust realm. Click on sign in. We still get invalid username, user2 or password. Now let's enter the correct username and password. Click on sign in and we are getting this response. So this is my authorization server. So instead of my authorization server, we can put the realm name as well here. So we will put that in the later videos because we will need the information of realm here. Then we are signing in as user one. This is the client name. This is the description of the client, and these are some hard coded scopes. So a user can either deny the request or user can allow the request. So that is it for this video. In this video, we have seen how to handle the login request from the login page and how to display the authorization interface. In the later videos, we will improve this because we want to get the list of scopes dynamically from the realm service and client service. In the next video, we will handle the request whenever user clicks on deny or allow button. Until then, keep learning. Bye.